Python subprocess with shell equals true, redirections and platform-independent subprocess killing. I'm having a hard time getting what I want out of the Python subprocess module, which is supposed to an unified/platform-independent abstraction, as far as I know, but don't get me started on that, smiles. So the simple thing what I'm after is the following. I want to launch an external, studio, application, possibly with subprocess, where I use shell-style redirections, like /myapp and gt, stout_log and gt, stir_log. Basically, I want to execute a shell command line, so I have to specify shell equals true for subprocess.popen, or else redirections in the command line won't work. I want to launch this command line in an async fashion, so it runs as an independent subprocess, but my Python process won't wait for its completion. My parent Python process would look at the child process's logs from time to time to extract information, but this is irrelevant to the question. If my parent Python process decides, it should be able to terminate this child process. Now, my main problems are that I'm basically forced to use shell equals true to get redirections to work. Processing the child stout/stir in the parent Python process is not an option, since I couldn't find functionality for doing it in a non-waiting way, and the parent Python process must do other things while the child is running. If I use shell equals true, then subprocess.kill will only terminate the shell but not the child process. I'd need a reliable child process termination method that works on any platform, but at least Linux and Windows. I hope I was specific enough. Thanks for any tips/hints in advance. I just spent a whole day with subprocess, and it's a pain far from either platform independent or simple frown, but perhaps it's just me. Update, the 13th of October 2010. If you launch a subprocess, even with shell equals false, then the subprocess.popen.kill function will only kill that subprocess, so if there are any grandchild processes, they won't be terminated. I read about using the preexec_fn parameter to set the SID on all child processes, but it's Unix only, timeout a subprocess.
Last time I was in a similar situation, I found out the easiest, and practically the only, solution was to kick off a thread which takes care of your child process. You can take different routes with this method, be it to parse the piping of the shell-style command and perform those in Python code, which you said wasn't an option due to the blocking, which would at the same time fix your killing problem. Basically, thread encapsulation seems like the way to go. Sadly, my experience with subprocess is all on the Windows platform, which has tons of its own little quirks. Subprocess has a lot of flaws all around, it seems, although it must do an okay job given the existence of the Popen 2 and so forth modules that it is supposed to replace.
I too had a similar situation recently. I created a Python subprocess that uses shell equals true, and needed to kill it later. However, because of the shell param, the real process is a child of the shell, i.e. a grandchild of the main process. Killing the child shell does not automatically kill off the grandchild. In my top-level Python script, to kill the shell and the real work grandchild, I did this. The first line kills off all children of the child process, based on PSF parentage. The second line kills off the child. Interestingly, this is necessary on Ubuntu, but not strictly necessary on Mac OS X, as on the Mac the grandchild seems to take over the original child shell process id.
Answering some of the issues.
If you want to deal with standard output and input from the command that is run as part of subprocess, you have to use shell equals true. Specific solution may depend on what you are trying to do. However, for processing output from a command that will run for a long time, there are some useful solutions. You could use poll, look at so discussion, getting real-time output using subprocess, look at the following for asynchronous interaction with subprocess. This URL, the following augmentation of subprocess can also allow for async operations. This URL. This URL, other useful discussion on SO, Python subprocess with timeout and large output and GT64K. As suggested, you could combine with the threads. Open instance provides a PID attribute with the process ID of the child process as shell equals true. You should be able to collect the command PID and use it with os.kill.
Going through your problems one at a time. I'm basically forced to use shell equals true to get redirections to work. You can't just use the stout and stare parameters. Processing the child's stout/stare in the parent Python process is not an option, since I couldn't find functionality for doing it in a non-waiting way, and the parent Python process must do other things while the child is running. This is because of Windows. On Unix type OCs, you just use the select module. Windows can only select on sockets, not files. If I use shell equals true, then subprocess.kill will only terminate the shell but not the child process. Because when shell equals true, the shell is the child process, and the commands are its children. I'd need a reliable child process termination method that works on any platform, but at least Linux and Windows. Does a reliable child process termination method even exist for Windows? Last I heard, even task managers in Task wasn't 100% reliable. And in Linux, you might not be able to kill a process that has a file open via a crash driver. Like Stigma said, for Windows support you will need to use threads as subprocess proxies. Also, you should try to run with shell equals false, and if you can't, please elaborate as to why not.
Jag väntar senare. Det är för kanske det subscribing.